Synth Network.
And a very good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on whereabouts you are in the world, whether you're watching us live or whether you're watching us on catch-up. Either way, thank you for joining us and thank you for watching. It's most appreciated. We've got a great show for you, episode 89 this week. We're getting close to that century. It'll be early part of next year when we do that. So welcome, one and all. Thanks for joining. If you are in the YouTube chat room, we'll come to you in just a moment and say hi. But before we do, let's get the stuff out of the way. Hit that button! Hit the subscribe button, please, please, please. And also, if you can like the video down there somewhere-ish, that would be fantastic, because then that helps algorithms and stuff, and that's always good. But if you want to help us with the show, we're always super grateful of your funding. You can do that in a number of ways if you so wish. You're under no obligation. It's completely free of charge to watch this. But if you want to donate, there is I was going to say YouTube. Well, there is YouTube. There's Super Chat and Super Stickers. I still haven't figured out what exactly the difference is between those. But you can donate that way. Or you can, of course, donate through our PayPal. And that's the link there. It's also in the description down below. And all of that money goes into a Pro Synth Network fund that we use to do this service, because this costs money. And anything we have left over, we have a sneaky couple of beers of a week. No, we don't. We're hoping to save it up to use it for something rather special, if we can. If not, it will just go back into funding the show. But it's all spent on this. We don't make any money. So there you go. If you can donate, that would be fantastic. If you can't, don't worry. It's absolutely fine. You can also find us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and of course, right here on YouTube. All the same handle at Pro Synth Network. Thank you for joining us in all of those places. Do share us around, get the word out there. We've got we've got a fantastic guest, and we've got a couple of regulars on the show as well. So let me first let's go to my cohort in the north of England. This is Ben Simpson. Ben, we actually met physically in person for the first time last week.
We did, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, how long have we known each other? And that was the first time.
Yeah, it was quite weird, wasn't it? And we got to meet Kent as well.
And we did, yes.
Also on the show.
And your lovely wife or partner, I don't know which.
I'm not sure.
I don't want to marry you off just yet.
Yeah. But yeah, it was great. It was great finally meeting you and rummaging through all Kent's projects and stuff. And meeting the dogs.
What were you going to say there?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was panicking myself. I didn't know what was coming out of my mouth, to be honest. So since then, it's been great. Just spent a load of time in the studio. I got some James Dyson, who's a member of our group. He's released a library of sounds for the DeepMind.
Right.
And so I got those. And I've put them on and they're great, so recommend them. I think it's only like 10 quid.
He's like the prince of patches, because he doesn't know when to stop putting stuff out, does he?
Yeah, and
it's all good.
Yeah, it's really good. So I recommend that for 10 quid. Have a look on the group if you've got a DeepMind. Obviously, it works on the 12 and the 6. So
oh, right, okay, yeah.
It's not too bad,
Yeah, he's done some really good stuff for the modal instruments as well. So.
Yeah, I believe
and
so.
And lots else besides.
Yeah.
Cool. And did you come back with anything from Kent's apart from maybe an STD of some description?
I might have done. I might have done.
Have you got an organ in the background there? Looks like an organ with all those switches.
Yeah, there's something in the background. I've got it blurred out at the minute because there you go. This thing here. It's the little brother to Kent's favourite synthesizer, I'd say. It's a CS60.
Nice.
It's very, very nice. Very nice. I'm enjoying playing on that quite a bit. Yeah, so much so that I've got all this other stuff going on and I've not actually done anything. Just been like messing with ring modulators and
Yeah.
it's really, really nice.
Good. Excellent. Yes. Well, good to see you again. So it was only like 5 days ago that we were together at Kent's. And of course, let's bring in the man himself. The man that we hassled all day, or most of the day on Sunday, and who fed us rich birthday cake.
Oh, yeah.
As well as feeding all of our synthesizer lusts. Mr. Kent Spong.
What?
First question I have for you, sir.
Yeah, go on.
Is the microphone the right way round this time?
I've got a little bit of tape on it that says
Front.
F. And one on the back that says A. Yes.
How are you?
Much better now, thank you.
Good. Because you had your jab, didn't you, the other day?
Yeah. It was delivered in the form of a cricket bat.
Yeah. But better to have that than to have the actual thing, eh?
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, Piano hasn't had hers, and she woke up this morning. She goes, "Oh, I feel really terrible."
Oh no!
So I'm going, we can stay in there then.
Yes. Bless her. Send her our love.
Yeah.
She looked after us splendidly the other day. You've had a bit of a rearrange in the studio there as well.
Yes.
Keep moving things around. Are you one of those people that just keeps moving your studio around?
Well, I fancied doing a little bit of a Vangelis sesh over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And I went sniffing around and I found a VP330 and I went, oh.
I went sniffing around and I found a VP. Just as you do, lying in the corner of a cupboard somewhere.
So, cause the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to do a little bit of, I wanted to see if I could mix the two genres together and then play them live. So, mix Vangelis with Tomita. And I thought, one thing I really, really need then is a Moog 12-stage phaser. Went sniffing, found one. Hooray!
Oh, what it is to be Kent Spong. Go sniffing around your house and dig out all these old, big, expensive synthesizer components. Yeah, lucky git. Welcome, sir. Thank you ever so much for stepping in because Chris can't be with us this week either. He wasn't here last week. So Kent has stepped into the breach to fill Chris's considerable boots. And thank you very much for doing so. So I think it's about time we met our very special guest. He is a keyboard player extraordinaire. He's played with some of the great bands and artists of the last 20-odd years. You've probably heard his work somewhere across numerous recordings, including the likes of Morcheeba. But he's now best known, I guess, for being the chief product officer of, and I need to make sure is it Rhodes Music, Dan? Is that the full company?
Rhodes Music Group.
Rhodes Music Group, there you go. Who have just announced the launch of the Mk.8. Welcome, Dan. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, absolute honour to have you here. And you're wearing the company garb as well, which is always good to see.
Oh, of course, Got to get the merch out.
Got to get the plug-in. Yeah, absolutely. So you must have been, for the last, I don't know how long, and we'll speak to you in more detail about the whole the Mk.8 experience, but you must have been up to your proverbials for the last 6 months, year or so, maybe?
Longer than that, in fact. It's been getting on for 2.5, 3 years now. I've been working on the project, in secret.
Yes, of
behind
course.
the scenes. It's been a long time.
And you've announced the product. When will the first ones roll off the production line, do you hope? Because obviously these things are
we hope during quarter 2 2022.
Okay.
Sometime in quarter 2, that's what we're shooting for.
Nice. Because you put your pre-order page up, didn't you, where you can go in and customize and order your own custom version of the Mk.8. Dare I ask how those things, how sales are going? Is things looking good?
Really good. The sales are actually blown our expectations out of the
Wow.
water. So
Fantastic.
yeah, we've taken on more people on the assembly team and really scaled up a lot as well. So we're match fit for the production.
Superb.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're going to talk to you in a bit more detail about the whole project, and we want to talk to you about your history and what brought you to this point, and where you see things going in the future. And we're super honoured to have you on, and it's great to have the Rhodes name back out there. But it's also great, I think, from a personal perspective, that it's based in Leeds and you are sourcing everything locally, and it's just this wonderful kind of project that you get. But we'll talk to you in more detail about all of that in just a little while. Before we do, let me just say hi to everyone in the chat room. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of your names because there's a lot of you there, but all the regulars are there. Thank you ever so much for joining. And can we also say, I don't know if she is in the room just yet, but our good friend Inky the Cat, also known as Lisa, it's her birthday today. Happy birthday. I'm not by anything. I can't play happy birthday, but yeah, well done. Congratulations on reaching another circuit around the sun. And thanks for being part of our family. And if you're in the chat rooms, hello, welcome. I hope you're not too drunk just yet, but you fully deserve to be. So good luck with that. And say to everyone else that's in the chat room, welcome. And if you're watching on catch up, and therefore you're not in the chat, well, thank you for joining us. You can see how the chat goes by. You can watch that live, apparently, or you can watch it as it happens, so to speak. I think that is all of the pleasantries and everything out of the way first. By the way, as we said, Ben and I went to see Kent just last Sunday, wasn't it? And Ben came away with the lovely CS60. I didn't come away empty-handed either. I brought home one of these. Look at that. Just that was the evening that I got it. I literally got it. Me and my son brought that into the garage. As you can see, it's in that horrible sort of place, but it's safe and warm and dry. And look at it. Oh,
That's a beauty.
Isn't it?
I wondered where that went.
Yeah, I snuck it out under my jacket.
Is that a
I thought that was all the cake that did that.
Is that a wooden key bed that it's got?
It is, yeah. It's the 73 note wooden, fully weighted, with poly aftertouch and all of that. So yeah, it's funny because I was sort of playing with the keyboard because it doesn't actually. Well, it does make a sound, but it's not a pleasant sound at the moment. So that's why So that's why it's here to see if we can get it working. But I have a KX88 over here, which is their old controller, and obviously it's not the full length keys. And the DX1 felt a little lighter than this thing, and it was kind of an odd fit. I was expecting it to be kind of heavier, but it's a little lighter, which is actually not a bad thing. But hopefully we'll get that singing. And unfortunately, it can't come up here because A, it's too heavy, and B, there's no room. So we'll have to do a special kind of thing downstairs, hopefully, when we get that going. Anyway, there we go. Let's go fours up on the screen. We're all here now. It's like the Partridge Family. And let's look at, shall we, our first... There's not much news, really. We'll get the news bits out of the way before we get into the detail with Dan. There's not a huge amount this week because, obviously, it's getting close to Christmas. But the first thing that I guess we should speak about, which is actually quite a good update to this already well-specified synthesizer, is Arturia Pigments has just been updated for free to version 3.5. So this is using a big release, and there's lots of great stuff added in here. And say it's free, and if you are an owner of Arturia stuff, you get a pretty hefty discount as well if you want to either upgrade or buy it for the first time. The main additions and enhancements, as you see there on the screen, there's a new enhanced sample engine browser. It delivers M1 capability for Apple Mac, and there's a streamlined UI and user experience, lots of new wavetables, and over 150 new presets. And if you haven't already bought this, you can buy this as a pack with 3 extra packs of presets as well. There's lots of kind of videos out there, but this is the one that kind of gives you just like a small experience of what the new synth sounds like. Let's play this for you now. Let's bring this up onto screen. I wish they'd make this process easier. Here we go. Right. There, let's have a listen to what Pigments 3.5 sounds like. It's a pretty versatile, I think is probably the best way to describe it. Pretty versatile package, the Pigments. Hands up, who's got Pigments and has used it at all? So me and Ben, Dan and Kent, no. Oh well, okay. Well, let's go to you first, Ben.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to A, download it, B, install it, and C, actually use it?
Yes.
Hey!
Yes, on all three.
Excellent.
And, like the very first Pigments was a bit crap on it. Like nobody was like really blown away with it, and then Pigments 2 came out, and that was really quite good. It was a massive leap, really, from what it was at first. This latest version doesn't seem to offer that much, really. You know, when you first look at it, there's a couple of, I think there's about 3 or 4 new features from the last update, but it makes a massive difference to what you can do with it. The biggest one is the cross modulation with the second engine. Like previously, it was quite limited what you could do. Not the amount of modulation and what you could modulate, but the sources of that modulation was quite limited. Now you can literally, whatever you can do in Engine 2, you can use that as a modulator for anything on Engine. It's brilliant. That alone is brilliant. And then they've added a distortion, and you're like, oh, big deal. Well, you know, but that is really powerful. What you can do with just that distortion on its own, and they've updated the comb filter as well, which that's an improvement. I just think, and there's like a new bank of presets to go with this update as well, and they're like astounding. They're the best like factory presets I've heard. Yeah, you know, for quite some time. And there's a lot of native dance. There's a lot of native dance going on in there, like where it's mind blowing how good it is, but you think, how am I ever going to use that? And who's going to use it first? Because nobody else can use it after they have, you know. But it really shows the potential of what it can do now, and it's for me, if that was an hardware synthesizer, that'd be 10 grand, you know, because it's software. It's so powerful now. I'd recommend it really to anyone. It's very digital, but I don't know, the filters are really good on it now as well. So a lot of that, it was for me. I've got different categories in Cubase. You know, I've got analog legends, you know, and and I've got a digital section, like pure digital. You know, where I didn't think that that particular synth could do anything else. So the hardware profile for me Waldorf microwave, that's in there, because I don't think that microwave can do anything that doesn't really sound, you know, really crispy digital. So Pigments lives in that section in the way I've got mine organised, but now it's capable of a lot more. It's I don't know, it's got a real quality to all the sounds. You know, there's some pads on there that really, really analog sounding as well. So I think it's the big improvements for me
Yeah, there's a lot of people are saying in the chat like it's their go-to synth. It's the one that they kind of pick up first, and it's kind of becoming more of that for me. I mean, it's something, if I'm just looking, if I don't really have anything but I feel like I want to do something, I either go to Falcon, which you can just go through all sorts of manner of things, or I go to this and just start flicking through the presets and start to get some sort of inspiration from that. And the whole, this kind of color-based editing system, it's very visual, and I like visual stuff. And it does. I do wonder, Arturia are really great at doing some of these, analog hardware synths now. And I just wonder, is there a plan maybe to take Pigments and put that in a box with a keyboard, and just run it all off of, DSP inside, what would have essentially probably be quite a low-cost Hydrasynth competitor, wouldn't it, really? I guess. Yeah, it's interesting. Mr. Goldman, have you ever had a chance to play with Pigments, or did you have a chance to look at it? Have you got an opinion on this? Do you think it's a cool thing? Or?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that, if you can use that as a tool that's relevant to your music, it's just great. It's great to have a lot of choices, And I think whether it's software or hardware, if a program works for you and your music, then it's all good as far as I'm concerned. I'm sort of I don't have any particular favourites as such. It's just what I work for myself. If I'm writing, I tend to grab hardware first and foremost, but I've got a lot of software as well that are, again, like you were saying, I might just find a preset in a particular piece of software and that'll spur a whole tune, or something in my MPC or something like that, just to sample a sound. But yeah, it's the thing that I like. What I liked about what they were saying there about the Arturia is that there's a lot of power in there, but they seem to streamline the interface, which sometimes I find some software interfaces are very overwhelming, and that can be quite off-putting.
Yeah.
As few steps as I can have between what's in my brain and getting that music recorded, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So
absolutely,
if they've streamlined that workflow, that's got to be a good thing, I think, ultimately.
Do you use much software? Because I mean, you're sat in a room there where we can see some brilliant pieces of hardware. Are you balanced between the two? Do you favour one over the other, or is it just what works for you at any particular time?
Exactly that, really. I mean, because I'm first and foremost, I play everything in. I don't kind of write anything in terms of sequences generally. So I'm always using a keyboard, and I like to just have everything there, in front of me, almost like self-contained.
Yeah.
As much as possible, So I tend to do my beats in like an MPC. Still, I've got an MPC 3000 that I use, and an MPC Live. But generally, everything starts in hardware for me generally.
Yeah. How are you finding the MPC Live? Have you got the new update in that?
I haven't yet, because I've been working on the Mk.8. I haven't actually. This is one of the first times I've actually been in the studio in about. I hate to think, it might even be like 7 or 8 months.
Oh, wow!
That I've actually been down here, and I haven't done any writing down here or any recording, just little ideas into my phone. But yeah, the MPC Live's great. I used to use a Dave Smith Instruments Tempest a lot, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Which I sold, which I really regret selling now, because actually it was so direct and easy to use and sounded great. So I'm on the lookout to probably grab another one of those at some point.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, the Live's great.
Yeah,
I've got some custom sound banks in there, and actually for one of my albums, I did some of the audio recording in there as well.
All right.
One of the players on my album used the violin, and we recorded the violin direct into the MPC, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Excellent. Ken, wake up.
I was watching the show.
On your lap?
Yeah, but there's a 10-second delay. Well,
timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
So, Kent, we know you as a big hardware guy, but you do like your software too. Does Pigments appeal to you?
I'd have to be drawn into it more, Because one of the bugbears that I tend to have with a lot of software is the way it's advertised. So, for instance, like that demo that you just had there,
Yeah.
and it's all badger, 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 badger. You know what I mean? Mushroom, badger, badger, badger. And you go, I'm not really doing that kind of thing, so maybe I'll leave it and move on.
Yeah.
Whereas if they can give you an eclectic array of what these things can do, go, oh yeah, no, that gives me an idea. I'd love that. All right, how much is it? I don't care. Let's have it.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, I mean, I can understand why marketing is pushed that way, where you've got to go because the dance scene is huge and everybody's into it and stuff. And yeah, look, this is what we can do with that genre of music. But all us other guys who like Vivaldi and old people.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't mind getting involved. I mean, we've got Hydra. I mean, it's pretty dancey as it is. But I just want something to help draw me in and not focus on the same genre over and over and over again, no matter what it is you go to look at.
Yeah. It does seem like a lot of soft synth and maybe some of the hardware synthesizer marketing. You get your 60-second promo that just that is designed, I guess, for sharing around social media, and it does all of that stuff tends to be whoop whoop whoop, kind of dubsteppy, whatever you want to call it. And then when you go onto the YouTube channel and look at the overviews that last maybe 10 minutes or so, where you get kind of like a full appreciation of what this thing is capable of and the different styles. But yeah, there does seem to be a predisposition to that kind of stuff. I'm guessing that that Rhodes promos won't be like that because they can't, thankfully.
Yeah, do a Badger Rhodes.
Yeah, do a
promo.
Badger Rhodes thing. Yeah.
All you got to do is hit one note.
Yeah. Oh dear. So look, that's Arturia Pigments. It's out now, 3.5. It's 199 euros, which I think for that synthesizer and what it can do is pretty good value for money. But it's on offer until January 6 at the introductory price of 99 euros. So it's half price. If you already own it, the update is free of charge. If you own other Arturia stuff, I believe it starts as low as 69 euros. So get in there. And if you buy that today, you get there's 3 extra sound packs that get thrown in with that as well. And apparently, it's just kind of come to me that I read somewhere those sounds won't be available individually after the launch, which is a bit odd because I own Pigments, and so I've updated for free, but I can't get those sounds, which is a bit odd. But anyway, that's Arturia. I'm sure they'll work that out at some point. It's available now at arturia.com for information on that one. Let's move away from instrumentation and let's talk something that is... I was astounded that this auction is actually happening because there is just some incredible gear in here. Mr. Nile Rodgers, the hitmaker supreme, is having an auction at Christie's, New York, had an auction. It finished yesterday. Oh. And look, I mean, just looking through this catalogue of how many instruments, particularly Fender Strats. I mean, this. I looked at this and thought, oh my god, he's actually selling. What does he call it? The Hitmaker? And it's not. It's the replica, isn't it? Right. But that sold for 47,500.
I know. Yeah, look at some of the prices.
2015.
Yeah.
But look at this. I mean, the 57 Strat solid body sold. It was estimated for 30 to 40. Sold for 150,000. And there's Telecasters in there. Then you get into all these Jazz Gibsons. And this is where Chris would have been absolutely ideal because he would have told us about all of these and how amazing some of these probably are. I mean, some only went for 800.
I can tell you. Wood, strings,
6-note polyphonic,
brown one, beige one, dark red one, blue one.
I bet he's spitting at the screen as we speak. Bless him. So yeah, there's all of those. Then there was some jukeboxes and some amplifiers, but there were also some synthesizers in there, and the estimates were actually quite reasonable, particularly given the market value of these things. So the Juno, was that a 60, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's
It
a
is,
60.
sorry.
Yeah.
60.
So that went for just over 10.5 US, but the JD800 only went for 16.25.
I know, yeah.
Which is not bad.
They valued that the same as the Juno 60, where
Yeah.
I don't think that's really anywhere near realistic.
No.
Is that an EPS on the end?
Sorry? Yeah,
Is that
EP, so SQ80.
Oh, an SQ8, okay.
Yeah. That went for nearly 1400. And the JP8000 went for just under 19.
How much did the Neve go for?
The Neve desk went for 37.5.
Right.
The Mackie went for 750. So some bargains there. And that little Roland VS840EX was 500. Then there's a whole bunch of acoustics and there's banjos.
Wait a minute.
I want to see how much that one went for. The double-necked ESP, 3,750. But yeah, some tidy money
Sold
there.
the Neve.
How much did them red kecks go for?
The what?
The red kecks.
Oh, them. Look at those.
Yeah.
Pair of Lynn Bowling red leather pants went for 375 quid, which was overestimate as well. Armani coat, yeah, there's all sorts. And then there's all these signed instruments. Yeah, the Neve.
He sold the Neve.
12-channel mixing board.
Yeah.
Richard is going to be pissed.
Maybe it was Richard that bought it.
No, probably not.
No.
What sort of money did that go for?
37.5.
No.
Okay.
No.
And there are other things. There was lots of items of clothing. There were also more guitars. I mean, how many guitars? This is probably why he got rid of them. That Ricky went for 10 grand. But there was a couple of cars as well. The Porsche went for 200,000, and the Mustang went for 32.5, which is absolutely understandable. German excellence over American rubbish, any day. Sorry, Ken. So, did anybody look at anything there and thought, "Oh, I might be tempted"?
No.
Anything there that tickled your fancy, Dan?
I mean, I'd like a nice guitar. I've got, I can't really play guitar, but
It's nice to
like
have.
a
They make nice ornaments on the wall,
yeah,
don't they?
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like my one does.
if there was a nice bass there, I might,
I think
Wasn't really
there
bad.
were a few basses.
There's a couple of basses, yeah. I like my Fender basses.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a solid body Philip Kubicki, I don't know, whoever that might be.
All right, yeah.
3750.
Does it
the Alembic,
matter?
that, look.
Does it matter to
There was
any of you?
Oh yeah, the Alembic, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it matter to any of you what the history of the gear is? Like, would you value a piece of gear more because Vangelis had it, or at one point would it mean any more to you?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I've got some gear from Psalm West that I bought when they shut down, and I don't use it, but I bought it because it came from Psalm West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that association. I mean, yeah, one of the things I bought was a VS880, the hard disk recorder, a bit like the one that's there, but the next one up, hoping that there might be something rather exclusive on there. And when Aaron, his Trevor's son, wrote me the receipt and everything, he said, if you find anything on there, wipe it. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And I got it home, plugged it in, played, there's about half a dozen tracks, which are pretty cool songs, but nobody I've ever heard of. And certainly if you play it into, Shazam, doesn't get picked up. So it was nothing, there you go. But I've kept them just out of posterity. But yes, I think the name certainly adds to the value as well, because, when we've sold Fairlights that have had a history. I mean, there was a time probably about 10 years ago where a Series 3 restored was about 10,000 US. But when Boris Blank's Series 3 came up,
Yeah.
it was 13.5, 14, I think that went for. because it was Boris Blanks and it was signed by him on the front panel as well. So the name does make a difference.
Yeah, well,
And I think if it's personal to you as well, you know, if somebody said, "Here's Howard Jones's whatever," you know, it could have been his Prodigy or his sweat-stained jumper from 1984. I would want to buy that because I'm a huge Howard Jones fan, and I'd pay extra for it.
Well, a lot of those yellow records are like what I was listening to when I was younger, you know, and so I think in that instance to actually have possibly the machine that was used to make them, that would be quite nice. That would be quite nice to do.
One of Howard Jones's was up for sale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
His Prodigy was up for sale, and it was signed by Howard Jones. And somebody messaged on the eBay sale saying, because it was £800 or something like that, and they go, "Well, look, you know, I'll give you £850 if you take the signature off." So it goes both ways. I mean, I mean, one of the CS80s I restored was the one that was used on China and Spiral, and it's it's a lovely feel to it because Vangelis likes the feel to be very, very soft. And yeah, I'd pay well over the odds to have that girl or Dave's War of the Worlds one.
Yes.
You know, because that was a big deal back then. So, and when it comes to resale on some of these things, the value of them is enormous. Like I said, the CS80 that was out of Make Your Boy's studio that Michael Jackson played.
Oh yes,
Billie Jean on and all that,
Yeah.
But it had been on billions of other records, and it came with all the paperwork and everything it had been used on. Went for a fortune, absolute fortune.
just
Because of that, it was still just the CS8.
Was that Michael Boddickers? No.
I don't know.
It's not so much what.
It was a Resident 80 in the studio in. Mate, what's the studio? Help me out.
I know the one you mean. In LA.
Big producer.
Big producer. Anybody?
Quincy Jones.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I didn't think he was that big. I didn't like mentioning Quincy in case I made a fool of myself.
No, it was out of the Quincy Jones studio because I kept thinking Phil Spector. I'm going, no, it can't be. It didn't have enough air on it. So yeah.
Now I remember when we had the Ian Stanley Fairlight here, which was used on the early. It was used on the early writing sessions for the Seeds of Love album, and then subsequently used by Ian on what's the Bryan Adams album, sort of 85, 86, Into the Fire, I think it was. It was used on that. It was used on a Lloyd Cole album. It was used on Propaganda's second album after they split up and reformed with virtually just one of the original members. And I remember buying all of these records that it had been used on, and it was just kind of a nice thing to have. Here's the instrument that was on these records. Yeah, and that was quite a nice kind of thing. And then we sold it, so I've got the records, haven't got the machine anymore. But there you go.
So I actually got to sing into the Kraftwerk vocoder.
Oh, of course, you've got
last
that,
week.
Yeah,
I've actually got it firing up and doing everything it's supposed to do, and I spoke into it. I'm going, I might as well say Autobahn. So I went Autobahn into it like that, and it came out. Still some work to go.
What about Rhodes? Because there have been so many people who are so associated with a version of that instrument. What do is there a Rhodes let's say Stevie Wonder played or something? What's the market like for secondhand Rhodes keyboards of vintage stuff?
It's gone quiet. It used to be huge, didn't it?
Well,
at one.
Yeah, I mean the prices have gone through the roof of second-hand Rhodes now. You could pay £4,000 or £5,000 for one, easily now. And still need to put work into it. So, but there's big demand, but particularly in this country, there's not a lot of them around.
Yeah.
In America, there's more of them around, obviously. But yeah, the market's very healthy for Rhodes generally. But finding good ones is difficult.
Yeah.
you know.
Hence why there's a Mk.8, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yay, at last.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So, sorry, my screen's gone off again. Oh, this damn thing, Jill. I need to sort something out here. This is ridiculous.
With the
Right.
Mk.8, with
Yeah.
the Mk.8, Dan, what's the predicted amount that you think will sell worldwide? Is it silly numbers, or is it quite limited? You know, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we're building as many as we possibly can,
Yeah.
according to obviously demand and capacity that we've got to build them as well. So production is set at 500 units a year at the moment,
Right. Yeah.
going forward, which seems like a good place to start, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's like
Yeah,
10 a week, isn't it? So,
yeah, exactly. And you know, we've got a great experienced team now for building and everything. So that's it's exciting. You know.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see demand increase after the first batch goes out.
Yeah, I reckon so, because it's going to get into some really
And people are going to
tasty
see
hands.
them being used and suddenly go,
Yeah.
oh, I want one of them.
Yeah.
I've seen what goes into them as well, but as we all have now with that wonderful Dr. Mix video, I think I'd only make half of one in a year if I was looking. It's like,
10 a week, yeah.
And I'm not bad at that stuff really, but it still looks like a pretty complicated thing put together.
It is. I mean, it's, you know, you've got electronics in there that are as complex as any synth
Yeah.
in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. Plus, you've got all the mechanics of a piano. Just there's so many variables that it's, you know, drone development is it's like a moving target
Yeah.
in so many ways, and you're just trying to sort of pin it down. And
Yeah.
you know, essentially, we've tried to turn something that was never precisely engineered into something that is precisely engineered. So it's an all-encompassing
Yeah.
thing.
Very, very quickly, because the people in the chat room are going to throw questions, and if you can
Yeah.
save your questions until we start talking about it in a little while. But there is one here I want to get at, because I'll forget it if it doesn't. So Jason Crouch is asking, is there any chance of a piano bass being redone? Do you have any sort of plans in that regard?
We haven't looked beyond a 73 model at the moment, just because that seems like the sweet spot when we were doing most of the research and surveying, and certainly it gives enough note range and it's still manageable for gigging. But obviously all the technology that we prove in the 73 note version can be applicable to any size. So
Sure. Yeah.
you know, if demand is there for smaller versions, larger versions, you know, we want to be really engaged with our customer base and listen to the feedback closely. And
Cool.
you know, of course, if hundreds and thousands of people go, we want a piano bass, then you know, we obviously would listen to that. You know.
Nice. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So that was Nile Rodgers' auction that finished yesterday. I didn't realise. I thought it was later on, but some incredible pieces of equipment there. I think the total raised, and this is all to go to his We Are Family Foundation, was 1.6 or over 1.6 million US. So I'm sure that will go to some great use, and I think Nile can probably move around his various buildings or clear out his store cupboard or whatever it is. We won't talk about store cupboards because we all saw Kent's last week. Oh my word.
God.
Is all you can really say to that. Let's whilst we're kind of on the subject of vintage stuff, we'll just quickly touch on this one, because this piqued my interest, only to then see that instead of a price being listed, it was price on application, which generally means that it's going to be too expensive for somebody like me. But this is a Yamaha GS-1, and of course, anyone that kind of knows me knows that I have this passion for FM synthesizers, and this was technically, I guess, the first commercial FM synthesizer, certainly Yamaha's first commercial FM synthesizer, in that wonderful kind of miniature grand piano body. It was a complete preset machine. It's even got, if you look in the top right hand corner there, I don't know if I can zoom in on this picture. No, I can't, it's not going to let me, but you just see to the right of the mirror are these little wallets, and those contain the magnetic strips that you fed into the reader, which is just about on the right hand side there, and it would then program the machine to play that particular preset. I mean, it just looks. I just love. Even if it didn't work, I would love one of these in the corner of my front room, just because it looks the business.
I think it's just for somebody who's totally vain. Why would anybody need a mirror pointing at their own face when they're playing?
Well, quite. When I first glanced at that, I thought, oh, it's got the programmer as well, which are like, you know, hyper rare to the point that they basically don't exist. Because I think there's one at Karma at Stanford, but I think Yamaha trashed all of their, because they didn't actually. I don't think they actually put it up for sale. But anyway, there we go. That's at the mjq.co.uk website. There's a whole. I mean, some of the stuff they've got in there is incredible. They've got, look at that, SSL from Abbey Road Studio 3. Again, price on application.
That's not going to be cheap, is it?
If you've got to ask how much that is, you just can't afford it. But there's, you know, Neumann U87s in there. There's a whole bunch of outboards, small mixers. There's a few other keyboards. You can have an ASR.
I had that here 2 weeks ago.
What's that?
The Neumann.
Oh, you had that one there, did you?
Yeah, I had it here, yeah.
Nice.
Love it. Beautiful case that it comes in.
Yes, they're always well presented, aren't they? But yeah, so much stuff there, you know, ranging from... Oh, look, there's a functioning Waldorf wave.
Ah.
Funny you should say that.
I wonder.
Well, yes, is it functioning?
Because that GS-1 has a fault, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah. I know a man who will remain nameless at this point, who is a dealer, went round to speak to the woman who owns that GS-1 before she offered it up to the auction house, and I think he offered her about £1,500 for it. And she went, "Oh no, I think it's worth a little more than that." And he went, "Well, I'm not paying more than that, girl," and off he went. So, and she did say, "Yeah, I think some of the cards, there's a fault with the card reader."
Which is common, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are modifications, aren't there, that you can, like a USB thing that you can get, I think.
There is, yes. Yeah, there is. It's
there's not a huge demand for them because they don't think they made many, did they?
No, but it's mental fitting it, apparently. It's a nightmare. So,
yeah. But such a great, you know, because if people are thinking, you know, the GS1 is anything like a DX7, it isn't. It uses FM, but it uses it in a completely different way. And it's a marvellous thing. When we were talking to Steve Porcaro, you know, he loved it, and absolutely, you know, it was used a lot on Toto 4. There's PPG there, Wave 2 for 10,000, and the 2.2 for 11,000, which I suppose is not awful money, I guess, for a PPG Wave these days.
I would have thought they'd go for more than that.
Yeah, so that's not bad.
Or is that the Neumann I had here?
Oh, that which
The one in the red case.
that one there,
KM56.
KM56.
Yeah, that sounds more like it. I don't know.
$4.5 grand.
$4.5
I know, for a microphone.
And I'd use it back the front.
Was there any? Did you have a chance to look through that, Dan? Was there anything that took your fancy? Would you like that SSL?
We might an SSL, yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
I saw it, yeah, that 1178 Yuri as well. I used to have one of those that I saw.
Oh, yes.
Another gear regret.
Yeah, I think we've all got them, haven't we?
Yeah, it's one of those, yeah. But, yeah, I've got too much stuff in here already, actually. I couldn't fit anything.
Bussendorfer's cheap.
Where was that? I didn't see that.
It's just gone off the screen. I think it was up for about 8k.
Was it?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
That's a little baby grand, isn't it?
Not got the room for it, but I'd like
That's
it.
good, isn't it?
Yeah, the Bussendorfer's got a beautiful sound. I really love it.
Well, I saw a photo on the internet today of a factory in Hubei province in China with all these upright pianos, just like hundreds and hundreds in rows, all being made in this factory. And I thought, oh, it's just like a Chinese manufacturer of Chinese brand pianos, but it isn't. They're making them for the likes of Steinway and everything. Yeah. It's just like, you know, when Steinway put out an upright, I guess it's not their top priority because, you know, the big ones, fetch all the money. I guess those are made. I guess they're still made.
The big ones are £16,000 a foot. They're actually sold by the foot, isn't it? It's mad, you know.
Crazy. Yeah.
Can't give you a set price. Go, no, £16,000 a foot. Oh, okay, the potential's get.
Look at that. There's some AK screens from Sam as well, which is. See, that's why I went to that sale at Sam God knows when was that? That was years ago. And there was so much gear, and there was boxes. They were selling boxes of reels of tape, and they just didn't know what was on them, and they couldn't be bothered to check. So you could make an offer, and you might come home with a Frankie Master or a Grace Jones track or something, or you probably or Band Aid or something. I don't know, but so some really interesting stuff in that auction there. But let's move on, because I want to get to Dan as quickly as we can. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Why have I got that on my screen? Right. Let's do. What should we do? Let's do, because Kent has actually taken one for the team, and he's gone out and bought this, and I want to know what he thinks of it. So this is the new iPad version. I say new; it's about 2 or 3 weeks old. No, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Come on, Puricelli, get your act together. I wish they'd come up with a better way of doing this. It's the SP1200 for your iPad. So this is a company called Low Hiss Systems. They've already done a desktop version of the SP1200, but now one can get it on an iPad. Let's have a quick watch of the promo video.
Determine the groove width. During the cutting operation, a constant watch is kept on the groove.
So this is eSPi from Low Hiss Systems. It is designed for the iPad. There is also a desktop version as well, which I'll show you in just a moment. But I want to come to Kent first, because Kent ponied up for this, and I want to know what you think of it, because the SP1200 thing has kind of come back in the last couple of years. I guess pushed by Isla Instruments and their S2400, which is stunning and still very close to the top of my want list. But also Dave Rossum has reintroduced the SP1200, which will be coming out next year. There's also didn't we look at an SP1200 or an SP1200 plugin, filter plugin, Ben? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was like a free thing, wasn't it? So there's definitely it's coming back into vogue, shall we say. What do you think about it, Kent?
Actually, I thought it was actually pretty cool. I mean, there's a dichotomy with these anyway, where you have having something that is audio based but using it on an iPad, so it really doesn't sound its best when you are using it. Because you go, oh no, I need to plug this into something to get all the bass and everything like that. So you go, well, now we've got cables hanging out my iPad. But it's great. I can sit in bed and write rhythms and bits and pieces on it, which is cool, because I spend so much time in bed being old. And, you know, I'd be tempted to get the desktop version of it as well. More so because it was, you know, more incorporated into the studio than the iPad. But it's great for, like, you know, just, I've got an idea for this, that and the other, and you can quickly smack it out. And I think it was, what was it,
$11.99.
$11.99.
Oh, yeah, €11.99. So yeah.
Now, mate. Now.
Yeah.
So
well, compared to anything that's hardware equivalent, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, like was said earlier about, you know, that old LM1 going for about 12k. It's like, yeah, okay, mate. And the good thing about the iPad version, it's the power supply doesn't catch fire.
Yes,
so it's a massive relief to anybody. And no, it's great. It's nice and easy to use and all the rest of it. And the sounds are deliciously gritty. And
it has a quality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty unique.
You can't. I suppose you could. I suppose fake it, but you can't really fake it too much. It has to be designed around sounding like that, rather than something that's like all really beautiful and you pull it back to sounding shite.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And I liked it.
Yeah. Cool.
I liked it.
Excellent. Nice one. Dan, you mentioned that you were an MPC user. Did you ever get your hands on the SP1200? Was that, because it was a slightly different paradigm to the MPC, but it had a real quality to it, didn't it?
Yeah, I think people used it specifically for that sound that it had. One of my housemates used to have one, and he swore by it for beat making.
Yeah.
And it really did have a what's the word? A knock to it, you know,
Yeah.
that nothing else really had. I mean, the MPCs, the earlier ones, the 3000 and the 60, have definitely got some real desirable character about them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's of that ilk
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's nice to see those being made again in different forms, you know. So different, you know, producers can access them, whether it's in a software version or a high-end reissue. You know, I guess there's space for all of those.
Do you use
to be
iOS
honest.
much at all for music making, or is it just like an ideas thing for you?
iOS, yeah, I don't really use iOS too much for. I've got a lot of different apps that have probably got various unfinished ideas in, but sometimes I won't. I'll just put ideas into them and just listen back to them, and then copy them in something else.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've actually used any iOS stuff in any of my tracks yet. Maybe a couple of the Moog, like Annie Moog.
Oh yes.
I think I used on a few tracks, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
There has to be. I think there's a special kind of iOS app that really exploits the paradigm, rather than just be a soft, like a plug-in or something. Like
Yeah.
Animo, really, you can get into it by using the touch paradigm. It's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the touch sliders are great in that.
Yeah.
Always-
Excuse me.
I guess it was. It always reminded me of the sort of first Bob Moog. I think he had a prototype touch keyboard where you could do a similar thing with the key plates on the top and swell the filter and
Yeah.
modulation, which is actually great. Obviously the Hydra does that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Some clever stuff. Yeah. Ben, did you get a chance to have a look at this? Any thoughts?
I've not yet. Usual excuse, I kind of forgot all about this one in the list of things. I kind of focused a bit too much on pigments and forgot about everything else. But it does seem good. I'm not too into using the iOS stuff for music. I can't get into that. So maybe I will look into the desktop one. I invested in an iPad Pro. Purely so I could do this kind of thing, because I did have the older iPad and I had Korg Gadget on that, and it literally like something, you had set something at 1,000 BPM to get it play at 90. It was just so slow. Everything was sluggish. So I thought, well, I can't really try this, so I've no idea what it's like. I'll get a better one. I'll get a better iPad, and it improved a little bit, but not to the not to the extent that it should have done, really. So I've been a little bit put off the whole thing. I do like some of the Moog things, like that Annie Moog. That blew me away, the way that you could, because it offers something different with this SP. Is it SP 1200? Is it
eSPi?
Yeah. That. It's great, that you can get an emulation of it so cheap, but it doesn't really. There's nothing new with the Animo thing. It's like, right, we've got this technology, we're going to give you something completely different, and the way that you can manipulate it in 3D space, and that is great, you know, and that is a reason to maybe come away from the computer and do something that you can't do at the computer. You can't do it on a hardware synth. You can't do it. It's offering something completely unique.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of having another device there that is only, in a way, an extension of the screen. If I've got a virtual instrument on it, I might as well have it in the computer, in the mix.
Yeah.
There's a whole load of rigmarole that I've got to do to get it sync up, I suppose. But it's good. It sounds good. It sounds authentic, but I think that kind of thing I'd run off the main computer. I can't be bothered with the. I'm too old for all that.
I mean, I can't. It's supported on both. So it's universal. You can use it on iPad and iPhone. And I've not been tempted to get it even for the iPhone, because I think that's probably too small for something like this. And I am still lusting after the S2400. Which might might be in my very near future. We'll see. But there you go. That's Low Hiss Systems eSPi, now available on iPad, but it's also available. I think it's $29.99 for the desktop version, and then it's $11.99 for the iPad version. So whichever takes your fancy. And there's options. It's nice to have those options out there. Right, one more thing before we get on to talking about the real topic of the day, which of course is the Rhodes Music Group Mk.8, which is why Dan is here. Let's just squeeze this one in because these guys, it's an English guy that's based in France, I believe. I think I've got this right. And he's developing instruments that are basically based around old, cheap FM sound chips that you would find in things like games consoles. And he had an instrument recently called the Mega FM, which I believe was the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis sound chip in there. And it was, he kind of literally realized every function in a slider or a switch or a rotary in this little box, and it was producing some wild sounds. Well, he's now gone and done something else, this time using the OPL3 chip, which was, I believe, was the YMF 262, which you found on most Creative Lab Sound Blaster cards of the 1990s. And he's made this drum machine called Blast Beats, which actually sounds really, really good. And I did have here's the video. Let's have a quick listen to this. This one takes a bit of time to get going, so we'll leave that one there. But it sounds really kind of nice, and when you think it's just a chip off an old sound card. I don't know where he's getting this from. Whether he's managed to find the motherload of old Creative Lab stuff and is just desoldering these things, or whether he's found whether they're still. I'm sure they must still be produced somewhere. Most chips are these days. Anybody fancy an old technology FM drum machine? I guess people are looking at me and saying, "Oh, Rob loves everything FM," but
I thought you'd like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I listened to that demo, and I think it's like the second tune in or something. There's like a bass sound that comes in, and I thought, I don't remember any like computers sounding like that in the 90s. It was really warm and fizzy sounding, and I thought, wow, I really like that, But the more I watched it, I watched a tutorial one as well, and I thought, I remember myself in the past having stuff that worked like this. Not exactly the same, obviously, but like where you've got to press two buttons together, and if that's lit up, there's some elements of the Prophet 6 that's like that, and I find it now really infuriating. So no matter how much I like that, it doesn't matter how much I like the sound. I don't think that I could cope with the way that works. It's great. It's ingenious the way that he's managed to get an interface like that to work with those old chips, because they were like notoriously hard to program. Back in the day. Like now, you can just pull a fader and press that red button and this, and you're into editing the bass drum so easily, and there's quite a lot of controls for everything as well. But it's to have a machine like that can do quite a bit without any form of screen on it at all, and I have to be able to memorize all these. That isn't going to flow well in anybody's workflow. I don't think. I think it's great, and I admire them for doing it. I think some elements of it sound really good, but workflow-wise, it seems really tough. I thought the Electron stuff was tough, but that. I mean, looking at the specification, it's got 4 audio outputs that are custom assignable, so you can assign anything to any of those 4 individual outputs. A lot of these kind of small budget drum machines
often get criticised for combining everything into a single output. So at least they've done that. But it's also, apart from having 6 drum tracks for kick, snare, tom, closed and open hi-hat and cymbal, which can also be used for melodic parts, it has 4 synth tracks as well, 2 monophonic and 2 duophonic. 100 kits, 160 songs, 16 patterns times 64 steps. Patterns are of arbitrary step lengths. There's SD card storage. There's 56 faders with per step automation and modulation. Full MIDI included in there as well. Analog sync in and out on 3.5mm jacks. Audio on 6.4 or 635, whatever they want to call it these days. Premium sandblasted anodized aluminium chassis. Swing function. I mean, for what it is, it's a lot of stuff in the box.
I bet Tom York's got one on order.
Yeah, quite likely. Quite likely. Kent, did this tickle your fancy in any way?
No. I spent a long time trying to get away from that.
Yeah.
And then the wavetable sound cards came out. And it was like, yeah. So in fairness, no, it's a nice piece of kit. It's a very clever idea. Taking old tech and reinventing it is always a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, unless it came with a joystick and you can play Lemmings on it, I'm probably not interested. Sorry.
Oh dear. How about you, Dan? Does this something like this sort of appeal to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have a go with it for sure. I do like FM drums.
Yeah.
I've got to say. So, and I kind of like the directness of the interface as well. So, yeah, I'd like to have a shot of it for sure.
Yeah.
And
it's
yeah.
I was just trying to see how much it is, because they're doing a pre-order at the moment, limited stock, €599. So doesn't appeal to Kent. Well, you have to consider. I mean, these are limited runs, and I believe they're hand built by like one guy in France or something. So
oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Mega FM was a little cheaper. It's about 400 and something. But that was just a synthesizer. This obviously there's a lot more hardware going on, with the sliders and the buttons and everything else. But it looks kind of a nice, appealing little box. Ben's off for a toilet break there. He's not just frozen mid-screen.
He's still in the room though.
So that's Blast Beats from Twisted Electrons. It's available to pre-order now from twisted-electrons1.com. For €599. Right, that is all of the news topics out of the way. Let's kick off this next part of the show with the latest promo video from Rhodes. I'm not going to get a copyright slap on this, am I, Dan? Do you think? Is this all original content?
Oh yeah, it's all original.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, if it's the one that went out today, I think.
Yeah. If I do get a copyright slap, then I'll hit you up with an email and say, please let us have it. Because it's funny. What did we play the other week? We played a promo for something. It was their own promo with their own music, but they'd obviously got some sort of automatic content thing going on, and YouTube flagged it up straight away. And so luckily I appealed it and said, we were just promoting your product. And they removed it straight away. That was good. But it's so difficult nowadays to sort of get around this. But anyway, enough of that from me. Let's play this for you. This is the latest promo video from the guys at the Rhodes Music Group. think that deserves a round of applause.
Yeah,
It just sounds amazing. And then the adverts kick in. Shut up. Go away. So I'll probably get striked for that. That sounds just... It's just... Oh, it just makes you go, ooh.
Superb advertising as well, that, because
Yeah.
it just gets everything across about that instrument. It's like
The nuance.
It's
Yeah.
quality built. It's quality sound. It looks absolutely. That configuration, I've had loads of fun on that configurator. You know,
I know, yeah.
I've got about like six different ones. You know, but
Yeah.
mainly with a lot of red in them. But
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. I love that approach. I wish everybody would do that now and let us pick what how we want it.
Customization.
But seeing it in that particular configuration then just looked beautiful, and the sound just hand in hand. Fantastic.
So before we get into like the story of how we got, or how you got to where you are with this, I want to get some background on you. If we can, Dan. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your history leading up to your involvement with Rhodes. So, I think, if you look through your Discogs credits, there's a lot of, big kind of British jazz. I don't like the whole genre thing, but there's that kind of the acid jazz type funk, R&B kind of thing going on there, and you're involved, with Morcheeba, and you've played with people from Jamiroquai and all of that, that kind of classic, the last 20 years of British kind of funk, soul, jazzy type stuff. Tell us about yourself. Where did it all begin for you, and your life up to this point?
Yeah, well, so I started piano lessons when I was 5, because my folks heard me picking out tunes on the piano, and I remember my mum sort of telling me that she was going to send me to piano lessons, and I was practically begging her not to send me. I remember grabbing her and going, "No, don't send me." But in hindsight, it was the best thing ever, and that kind of started me on the path. So I started my piano lessons, ended up doing a lot of classical grades and classical music studies, theory. Did my grades, and then after that I went to Leeds College of Music, and I started on a jazz degree course there.
Right.
And that was kind of, it was incredible, because I met so many other people that were into jazz and improvisation. I mean, before that, I never defined myself as a jazz player. I was always improvising and picking things out by ear. But it was only when I got to music college that I started discovering more jazz artists. I mean, before that, I was into, bands like sort of Weather Report and Level 42, and I was into a lot of prog as well. I mean, I'm a big Tony Banks fan. Used to love Genesis, and so of course Mike Lindup as well, Level 42. So Mike Lindup and Tony Banks were kind of my childhood heroes.
Right.
And of course Mike's always played Rhodes as well. So it's weird, because I always knew the sound of Rhodes as well when I was younger, but I didn't know what the physical instrument was that embodied that sound as well. So that all came together when I went to music college, and I got my first Rhodes, and something just connected with me like nothing else I'd ever played before. And I ended up picking up my first Rhodes probably, I think, about 1992, 93, and fell in love with it. I've always loved taking things apart anyway, and so I really, as soon as I got my first Rhodes, I wanted to know what made it tick, and just started taking it apart and putting things back together, and that's how I kind of got into it. And then going on tour with Morcheeba, in the early 2000s, after I'd left music college, I took the same Rhodes with me on tour with them for getting on for 8 or 9 years. So I had to become pretty quick at knowing how to fix a Rhodes on the road, making hammer tips out of pencil erasers and whatever I could find ready to keep them going on tour, So that's the basics.
Were you ever tempted to swap it out for a software-based version purely for convenience?
Never. No, I mean, it's not for me. It's always been about the direct connection with the instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I love software as well. If something had been around that could offer that connection as well, maybe I would have had that alongside as well. But you know, it's to have the physical instrument, to feel those vibrations back through the keyboard, for me, is so important. You know, the instrument, or you almost become at one with the instrument. It becomes part of you. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really important for me to have the hardware and, you know, have that with me at all times. It was kind of like my comfort blanket, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. So what then brought you? How did this all start? Was it like a crazy idea somebody had and thought, let's make a Rhodes again? How did you get hold of the name? You know, how did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it concise. So after I finished touring with Morcheeba, when I used to come back in between touring, we used to go away for like 2 weeks at a time and then have a week off, and it was like that for a long time, and probably 6 or 7 years it was like that, you know. And when I used to come back, I used to help mates out fixing their Rhodeses for them. And people started feeding back to me, I really like how you set up my Rhodes for me, you know, would you do it for my other mate, or, you know, this band that I know? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then the feedback I was getting was always really positive, and I was like, all right, maybe I could start helping people out here a little bit. And I wasn't charging people at the time, I was just sort of doing it for the love of it, you know. And when I did come back from touring, I'd burnt so many bridges in terms of gigging, and people thought I'd moved to London even though I was still in Leeds.
Yeah.
That I needed to find a way to basically to survive after touring, you know. And I went into fixing Rhodes pretty much full time.
Right.
Working out in my kitchen at home, which my wife loved but hated at the same time.
Yeah.
The kids running around with like various sharp implements around wasn't always the best thing, and stacking up the living room with you know, multiple Rhodeses is always getting me into trouble. But you know, no, she's really supportive actually. It's
good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, so yeah, it kind of turned into a business. And yeah, from there, I was literally in my workshop in, when was it, 2018, and I had a call off Joseph Brandstetter, who was the owner of Rhodes Music Corporation, who made Mark 7. I was doing some work repairing Mark 7s for Rhodes at that point, so I kind of had a relationship going on there,
sure,
supporting Mark 7 users in the UK. And I got this call, and Joseph said, "Oh, I want you to speak to Matt Pelling." I was like, "Oh, cool, all right, I know Matt. Matt, you know, runs Loop Masters and Plugin Boutique." And I sort of said to Joe, I said, "Oh, has he got a Mark 7?" He was like, "Yeah, something like that, you know." But yeah, just give him a call. So I spoke to Matt, and basically Matt had been in touch with Joe, and he was officially licensing the Rhodes trademark for some software products already. And then Matt actually got offered a chance to license the Rhodes trademark himself, and he rang me up and he was like, you know, do you think it's possible that we could actually do this and, you know, make a new real Rhodes? And I was like, yeah. I mean, obviously I didn't know what that would entail at that point, but I was so excited. I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. And of course, if somebody, you know, comes to you and makes basically an offer like that and wants you to be part of it, you know, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And obviously I grasped it with everything. And me and Matt really hit it off, and we met up in Leeds, and then the rest is history, really.
Yeah.
And we've been working on it since. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, oh, it's fascinating. I mean, yeah, like you say, to be offered the chance to build a new version of the instrument you so passionately love from all aspects, you know, whether it's a player or a restorer, repairer kind of thing, it must be an amazing yet similarly daunting kind of task to face.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're a Leeds man, born and
Yes,
bred.
indeed. Lived here all my life.
Yeah, and the Leeds, the Rhodes factory is now in Leeds.
It is, yeah.
And one of the things I noticed from the Dr. Mix video, which we'll play a little clip of in just a bit because it is a lot of fun, is that everything, pretty much everything, almost everything in the new Mk.8 is sourced either in Leeds or within a 1 or 2 hour kind of radius of Leeds itself, which, you know, for a country that we're living in at this moment, whatever your political persuasion, you know, we're almost being forced to do things centrally, you know, within the UK because of what's happened with Brexit and stuff. Was that a conscious decision to build the supply chain within the Leeds area and the West Yorkshire area, or was that something that was kind of forced upon you? You know, tell us a little bit about that, because that's a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, when I started off on the project, I really wanted to be intimately involved at every step of the process. I wanted to know how parts were being made. I wanted to have direct relationships with all the manufacturers.
Sure.
You know, I wanted to become friends with them and for it to feel like, you know, we were all in this as a kind of a family, making, putting all our collective energies into the instrument, you know. And there's always been a tradition of so much amazing manufacturing around the Leeds area. I mean, I never had any idea how much it was going to cost to make anything in the UK, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to start from closely around and then see how far I have to fan out. And it was just incredible, like ringing up companies, and, you know, everyone was so enthusiastic about getting involved, and everyone knew about Rhodes and couldn't believe it. And, you know, it was definitely a conscious decision to keep it in the UK so that we could really easily track all the parts and batches, and, you know, if we have any problems during the development or during the manufacture, I could just get in a car or get on the phone and speak to somebody, and we could, you know, have a cup of tea or a beer or whatever, and just
have a brew,
and just, you know, and sort it out, you know, as quickly as possible without anything getting in the way of that process. It was really important that, you know, for me, that we tried to sort of reignite some of those techniques and manufacturers that maybe had used to use those techniques, but they kind of got lost down the years. But, you know, for example, like making the tone bars in the piano and the tines, you know, they're very demanding products to make. Deceptively simple on the surface, but there's so much that goes into those to get them to sound the way that they do, and to produce them at quantities as well. So yeah, it was really important that, you know, that was only that it was very close to home for me. So and also, yeah, obviously the pandemic kind of made it, you know, had a big influence on it as well, because you know, couldn't travel anywhere, and, you know, I just wanted to be able to sleep at night, basically knowing that I could reach out to the manufacturers or get there very easily if necessary, you know, because traveling was so difficult, you know.
So take us on a geographical trip around the Rhodes Mk.8 in terms of where things are manufactured, because again, you went through this in the video, but I'd just like to kind of hear it again. So I think let's start with the keys. Where are the keys? Because they're not made in the UK, am I right?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, so when myself and Matt and Tim Dawson, who's Rhodes financial officer, got our heads together originally, we sorry, what was your question again?
Like a geographical tour of where everything comes from.
The keyboard.
And the keys,
so yeah, but Matt had basically said, build the ultimate Rhodes.
Right.
There wasn't really any constraints on it at all. So I just thought, right, who would I want to build each part? Who would be the ultimate people to partner with in those specific areas? So I thought, obviously, like Steinway for the keyboard. I was like, obviously not knowing what that actually meant in practice. But then I discovered that they had that Kluger, who was part of Steinway Group, make the keyboards for Steinway, and they're based in Germany. So I reached out to them. Christian, who's the managing director there of Kluger within the Steinway group, was super enthusiastic to get involved in the rebirth of Rhodes, and so yeah, Kluger with myself and our mechanical designer James Cope, who's based in Halifax. We worked out the designs for the new keyboards, and we looked at it very closely to see what areas could be improved in terms of the balance of the keys, the materials used, trying to make sure that it was sustainable wherever possible, the materials were sustainably sourced. Just really zoom on every aspect of that keyboard under my microscope, looking at all the different robots across the eras, what people liked about different eras and what they didn't like, and kind of collating that information. And then we started with a Mark 7 keyboard, which for many, the feel of that keyboard was one of the best feeling Rhodes keyboards around. It was really nicely balanced. I know Nina, who was the one of the technicians at the Rhodes Music Corporation, she was a classically trained pianist, and she had got that keyboard dialed in really nicely, along with the other guys there, Jake Simpson and Jamie Bullock. And we started with that keyboard and saw where we could improve that keyboard beyond where it was. And of course, with Kluger's experience making Steinway keyboards, they brought all that to the table in addition to what was great about it. And it just turned out to be the most incredible feeling.
Yeah.
It's the first thing when... Sorry.
No, carry on.
It's the first thing that people, as soon as they sit down at Mark 8, they're like, this feels like a finely tuned piano. It's so nicely balanced and controllable,
Yeah. And what about the other? Because there are other components like the hammers. They're local and made local, and all the other bits and bobs. So where do all these bits come from?
Yeah. So the hammers are made in Huddersfield. The hammer tips are made in Leeds. The hammer combs are made in Leeds. The tines are made in Leeds. All the wood parts are made in Leeds. Sort of the tine rail, the pickup rail. The pickups are made in Chesterfield. The tone bars are made in Leeds. The springs are made in Skipton. The toe lexing is done in Cleckheaton, between Leeds and Bradford.
Yeah.
The aluminium's made in Bradford for the front panel and the underneath panel. So yeah, it's like it really is like a Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Rose,
there must be a white rose stamped on the bottom of one of these.
Yeah, it should be really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Made in Yorkshire.
Made in Yorkshire with pride.
With pride, aye. See, we spoke with Axel Hartman about a month or so ago. We had him on the show. Fascinating guy with a huge history of design, and when we talked about the Rhodes, he was just like, you could see in his eyes the passion he had for this, because I think it was his first instrument, an original Rhodes from back in the day. And so when you asked him to do this, it was like, he didn't even have to think about it. First of all, why go to Axel Hartman? Why not use existing designs or maybe tweak things? And how was that experience working with the master designer?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing working with Axel. I mean, he is totally involved in the project on so many levels. He's been involved in so many details, and he's always there on Skype. We talk almost daily about aspects of the design and how we could improve things. And right from the start, I sent him some sketches of the concept. I mean, I'd already kind of got the specs worked out for like the preamp model and the effects model based on my experience as a Rhodes player and what I would, all the things I always wished a Rhodes had. I was always hanging loads of pedals off mine, but they were always creating loads more noise and had to carry loads more cables and pedal boards and bits and bats. And I went to Axel again because I just thought, again, with that ethos of who would be the ultimate designer that I would love to work with on a project of this scope, and bearing in mind, how powerful the whole legacy of Rhodes is, and I know how picky we all are in the Rhodes community about our instruments and how everything's got to look and feel just right. And I know Axel has so much experience in just making incredible feeling, looking, and instruments that he's just got a magic touch as far as I'm concerned when it comes to industrial design. And so he was the only person in the frame as far as I was concerned to take on that epic task.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it with him about the design and how he's really. I mean, he said that he wanted to capture, the essence of the Rhodes, but also moving it forward. And I think that's a kind of design philosophy that you've had in terms of the internals as well as the visual styling, is that you're honouring the past but also looking towards the future. And how important was that to you in the whole project?
Oh, massively. I mean, the weight of responsibility on our shoulders is huge. It's something that we're so determined to do it right. We don't want to rush anything. We want to listen to customers, to feedback, but to really zoom in on the important details, but without taking away from the classic sound. I mean, for me personally, it was like, before we even got to thinking about the sort of overall look of the instrument, it was like, can we actually make something that sounds legit and like a Rhodes? And that was the scariest thing, is like, if we couldn't get a tine to sound like a Rhodes tine, then we were going to be in a really difficult spot. So it was a very scary time at the start, in terms of trying to find out. We actually had some basic drawings of some of the parts from the Mark 7, but all those magical things can't be defined on paper, as we found out as you go through the project, and it's literally just blood, sweat and tears. It was me in my basement in this very room here for about a year, just putting parts together, trying different manufacturers, different manufacturing techniques, doing lots of R&D, you name it. We tried every material that we could find, and trying to hit on that sound. I mean,
because it's not like you're coming up with like a new electric piano that maybe is inspired by the Rhodes. You're actually coming up with a Rhodes, and if you mess this up, that people will just come down on you like a ton of bricks, because it's like you're crapping all over the name and the brand, let alone the thing. So that must be a heck of a pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure. I mean, I like a challenge. It's a good job. It's a good job, really. But it's all encompassing. It's taken over my life in the best possible way. And I just want to do it right. We want to do it right. We want to do it right by the legacy, by the brand, and of course, for all the customers out there. We want to just make something great that people enjoy for years and years and years, and that it's a musical instrument. It's got to be about music in the end of the day, and people feeling great. So there's so many things to consider. It's such a delicate balance, in every respect, the instrument itself, but also, like you say, paying homage to the legacy, and whilst capturing the classic sound and taking it forward. It's like, how far do you take something like that? It's, then if you make something that's too simple electronically, people will say, oh, we want more electronics. But then if you put lots of electronics in, people say, oh, we want it simpler.
Yeah.
So it's always just trying to find that sort of sweet spot, which I think we found, you know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it for sure.
Yeah.
We got some questions that have been sort of piling through the chat. Ben, do you want to go through a couple of those?
Yeah, I think it's Neil Lochran. Many years ago, you and he chatted a lot back and forth about making your Rhodes Mark IIs lighter, and he recalls you gigging with a custom one. Is the new Mark 8 much lighter than the old one?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It's it weighs 34 kg.
Okay.
Which is approximately 75 pounds. Yeah. We've shaved around 30 pounds off the weight of the actual piano part itself. Wow. It's a lot more manageable. I mean, the old pianos, the top part alone weighed about 92, 95 pounds without the lid on. Mm-hmm. So we've brought that down considerably. It's a lot more manageable, yeah. I mean, I can pick it up myself and put it in a soft case and take it on a gig, and you know, people are quite surprised when they pick it up, like, oh, wow, yeah, it's a big difference.
Because I suppose with something like the Rhodes, that the physicality, the you know, even you know the denseness of, is denseness a word? I don't know, but you know, the density. So there you go, the density of the body and the structure. Mm-hmm. Does that have an effect on the overall sound? Because it is, you know, you're hitting these tines, and it has it's electroacoustic, isn't it? So it must have some. So when you're shaving all of that weight off, I guess you have to be very careful in how you're affecting the sound of it as well. It's not just like changing a plastic case, is it?
Yeah, there's a very delicate balance, which is what we found. There was a lot of surprises during the whole project. Like once we took it below a certain weight, the sound completely started to change, and you know, a lot of the richness in the low end of the key, the low end of the sound, started to diminish, the sort of thickness. So, although obviously everybody wants as light a Rhodes as possible, there's definitely caveats with doing that, which we found during the project, and we found it's pretty much at the point where everything sounds like a Rhodes. But yeah, obviously you could take stuff further, but we through the testing we didn't feel that was appropriate.
Sure.
We've removed as much as we can without affecting. Also, we wanted to still use a real wooden structure supporting the instrument as well, because that also damps the acoustic noises as well.
Yeah.
In the instrument, and so obviously if you make a plastic molded case, you can lose more weight, but then it becomes inherently more noisy because of the sound reflections internally as well. So, you know, a lot of things sort of define those choices that we made ultimately. And the instrument itself is very quiet acoustically. You know, you could put it in a room with some mics around it, and you can barely hear it acoustically compared to even the fully boxed up old pianos, because the keyboard is so much quieter. Cool. Yeah.
Ben, anything else from the questions?
Yeah, well, there's another one from Neil. He says that models of Rhodes in the past had quite a lot of variations in components and actions. Was there a particular model that you based the Mark 8 on? Maybe the Mark 5 or?
Yeah, so internally, so like the hammers and the hammer combs are very similar to Mark 5 ones, but they've been uprated in terms of the key wear areas. So the areas where they pivot used to be problematic in terms of wear and cracking. So we've uprated all the pivot points, the main action points, you know, where all that kind of tension or acceleration is coming from. So, but yeah, I mean, the remit was to make it sound like a classic Rhodes. That was the only thing that was defining the sound, really. And it seems to straddle all the eras really nicely. So if we put one of our new tines into an early Rhodes, well, we've got a 1969 model. If we put a tine in there, it sounds great. If we put it in a Mark 5 or a Mark 7, it sounds great as well. So, but yeah, I guess the basic action is based on a Mark 5 and taking that forward and improving it wherever we could.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sasquatch in the chat wants to know where he can order a Rhodes hoodie.
Well, that
Where's
will be
the merch?
That shall be revealed very soon.
Oh, lovely.
Yes,
One.
it's
There we go.
upcoming. Yeah.
Excellent. He also had another question about the digital circuit design side of things, and he wondered if you could say who did that design for you. Was that in-house, or did you get somebody else in to do that?
Yeah, we've done everything in-house. And we're working with Cyril Lance, who was Chief Technology Officer at Moog, actually.
Oh, wow.
He is behind a lot of their most famous designs, and he actually works with Axel a lot, actually.
Right.
At Moog as well. So Cyril is behind a lot of the analog and digital circuit design. Yeah. Nice.
Yes.
Well, again, that was an amazing situation that occurred. Axel told me that Cyril was no longer working at Moog, and we had a conversation. He was really excited to get involved with Rhodes, and has been ever since.
Nice.
So again, it's an honour to be working with Cyril as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got some really sort of important people in there. Kent, did you have anything you wanted to throw at Dan, question-wise, not physically? As he stuffs his face.
There was something that crossed my mind.
There's a lot of room.
Which was, Jesus, I don't know. FM is shite.
All right, thank you.
There you go.
Touche.
Got you back. No. When we were doing, it was a design we were doing 1,000 years ago. But when it came to Tolexing, we weren't allowed to use any form of Tolex unless it had the white fire retardant on it, because of EU regulations. But it makes this Tolex very, very soft and spongy, and it tears easy. And it's a real pain. So, because of Brexit and everything else, are you able to use like a more traditional type of Tolex on the piano?
Yeah, we're using it's a Fender style Tolex that we're using, with a black backing on it. The problem is with the white backing that there's some very difficult corners on the Rhodes.
Yeah.
Particularly on the Mk.8 to get around, and those white areas would actually show through. Even the greatest Tolexes in the world would have a real difficulty on some of the corners that we've got. So yeah, we've got a black backed Tolex on there, which is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, because it catches. I mean, you got to carry this thing about.
This is it.
And this. The EU version, it catches on something and it just tears it, and then you've got this white strip.
Yeah, exactly.
Down the side of the piano.
We did test that, and exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing's too beautiful to have that done to it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. We got a paid question, so we're financially obliged to ask this one. This is from Andy over in California, I believe. Synth addict. He knows nothing about the Rhodes. But he says, is the metallurgy, I never know how to say that word, is the metal construction of the tines a trade secret, or is it just the patented shape that makes it sound so great? Is it a special compound, alloy, or what? Can you tell us about the tines, or is it under lock and key?
Yeah, I mean it is a trade secret, but it's it's a steel tine essentially, but there are so many elements to the way that steel, to the grade of steel, to the way that it's worked, to the way that it's assembled into the block that it fits with. There's so much science and research in that part. and especially the Mk.8 tine, because we don't make it how the old Rhodes tines were made. We make it in a completely different way that allows much tighter tolerances on the part as well. So our tines although it looks like an old classic Rhodes tine and will work in old Rhodes pianos and sound legit in there and blend nicely, it's the Mk.8 tine is a completely redesigned part essentially.
Right. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, still based on Harold Rhodes's classic design. But again, taking the classic and trying to move it forward so we can make it in a modern way. And we get them cut in sets as well.
Okay.
Which we don't have to. We're not there cutting everyone by hand individually or anything like that. It's it would be impossible to do that on a production line and scale to the numbers that we need.
Sure.
Sure.
I want to bring this into, because Dr. Mix is known he's got a great YouTube channel. He's a fellow Italian, so I've got to big him up. But he came over to you recently and filmed this video, and we're just going to play again a short clip of this, because it's great hearing a Rhodes played by somebody who can play a Rhodes. And I'm sure you'd agree, being one of those people yourself. I'll shut up now. Let's listen to this.
See you later.
There we go. We'll leave it there. He does his...
Welcome to Dr. Mix. Hey, how you guys?
He does that thing, doesn't he? You kind of, I don't know what you call it, kind of kung fu style stuff at the beginning of his videos. I mean, that must have been a real treat to have somebody, like that come down who's so super enthusiastic, and he's bought one, and you showed him his one that was being made.
Yeah.
That must have been a real buzz. And then you guys were jamming in that little kind of that's all in the same factory, I take it, that little studio you've got there.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it was an amazing day. I mean, I get really nervous when anybody comes down because, it's we're so in it every day working on the instrument itself. But the most pleasurable thing is, of course, like when people come down and play it, you hear them play it. But there's always that part of me that's, you're like, oh, they're going to love it as much as we love it, And but thankfully, everybody that's come down has just fallen in love with it,
Yeah.
Straight away, which is a blessing,
I want to know, because I'm a mad Level 42 fan as well. I mean, I was really into that whole kind of Brit funk thing back in the day. And Mike Lindup is a huge hero of mine. I did send him an invite to come on the show at some point, but it's kind of got lost in management, I guess, or he just doesn't want to come on. However, he was well known back in those days for having a Rhodes and the old Prophet 5 as well. And I think somebody mentioned in the chat that he must be like a pig in the proverbial, now that he can have a brand new Rhodes and a brand new Prophet 5 that will not need to be constantly repaired. Have you had people like Mike or other people come down and go through this and introduce them to it?
Yes, funny you should say that, because 2 weeks ago Mike actually came down.
Oh wow!
To see me, yeah. Well, I actually look after Mike's dyno Rhodes, which I've been looking after for the last probably 7 or 8 years now. So I repair and service that. I've pretty much rebuilt that whole piano for him over the last few years. It hadn't been looked at for a long time, and Mike brought it to me, and I fixed it up for him the first time in my living room here, and then he brought it back to me before every tour that they go out on with Level 42. And we've become really good friends over the years, and
awesome.
He was sort of passing by the other weekend and dropped in, like surprise visit, and
nice.
Yeah, it was amazing to show him the place, and I mean he loved the piano, and I think he's probably going to post something soon anyway himself about it.
Because he's got a new album coming out soon, hasn't he? Changes too.
He has, yeah.
That's going to be really good.
But again, for me personally, to have Mike down and play it and give the really positive feedback that he gave was just a dream for me. Because again, when I was a kid, Mike was still one of my heroes. As a Rhodes player, as a as a writer, singer, everything, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Talking of like having tours around the factory and the facility you got there, Sasquatch has paid another £5. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate that. In the future, you know, obviously COVID permitting and all that kind of stuff. Do you ever like plan to allow small group visits around, to see these things being made, or is that something you maybe want to look at next year?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for us, it's so important to have that connection with people. You know, it's not, you know, customers there and, you know, the company there. It's very much about us all. You know, it's the Rhodes family. You know, we want to bring people into everything we're doing and you know, show people around. It's for us, it's a real buzz. You know, it's really exciting to show people that. So yeah, absolutely, we've already had a lot of requests. You know, similar requests from people wanting to come down. So, you know, at the moment it's super intense, obviously leading up to production, everything. But wherever possible, yeah, absolutely,
Nice.
we'd love to, yeah.
Excellent. And in terms of building these machines, obviously you have the custom configurator, which, you know, we all looked at and started weeping, not just at the choices that were available, but, you know, this is a premium product and therefore has a premium price, and rightly so. I mean, I remember when we spoke about it when the official announcement was made that, you know, I think Kent, actually, you said this, that, you know, it's a proper instrument. And it's not just, you know, a bunch of circuit boards and things. This is a living, breathing thing. But you've got this wonderful kind of custom configuration page on the website, which I'm just trying to call up as I'm doing this here. So you can flick through all the different types of colours, and you can change the colour of the top and the bottom, the panel. The effects panel can have a different colour. The stands can have a different colour. If I was, you know, if I had a big chunk of cash that I wanted to throw your way, are these the only options I can have, or are you like the Lotus of keyboard manufacturers? And I can say, I want sky blue pink with cats across the top. Could you do something like a proper custom job?
You know, yes, we could.
Always the right answer.
Yeah, I mean,
at the right price, of course.
Those are our set configurations.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's much more difficult to do customs, but we can do them potentially. Yeah. So
cool.
You know, everybody, because we have such good relationships with our manufacturers, they are willing to do off-piece things now and again. You know.
Yeah.
As well. So, but the main thing is to get the you know, the kind of configuration. You find options out there, you know, that's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the things, you're going to have to help me out here, because I was watching that video with Dr. Mix, and you were talking about, now what is it? It's there's part of the preamp section on the left there. That's kind of like the amp. You said you mentioned something about it being in a new firmware update that it's going to operate maybe like almost like a potential like an oscillator that can then sit under the sound of the actual Rhodes itself. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, because that sounded really fascinating?
Yeah, so it's kind of, it was something that we stumbled on when we were working on the circuit, but basically because essentially the LFOs are digitally controlled, they can run into audio rates.
Okay.
And you get AM amplitude modulation going on, and the whole keyboard then starts to behave at the very high rates like a polyphonic oscillator, which you can then, if you you turn up the depth fully on the panning and set the speed, and you can then dial it into the pitch of the keyboard, and depending on which of the panning waves you select, so you've got 4 panning waves, you can get almost like a softer polysynth sound layered with the Rhodes, or a harsher one if you use the square wave. And then by tweaking the depth control, you could then get like a half mix blend of the dry Rhodes signal with the amplitude modulated signal as well. So
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Excellent. I mean, those little happy accidents must be really exciting when you kind of discover those for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can really get like the low end to sound like it's got a really tasty analog synth layered with it.
Yeah.
It's really something, you know.
Cool. Like that. Yeah. Guys, were there any more questions that I missed in there, Ben? You were busy scratching those into the notes there.
I think we got rid of most of them.
Yeah.
I think so.
Was there a MIDI question?
There wasn't. But would you like to ask one?
I've got a MIDI question myself, but go on, Kent.
Well, no, it's probably the same MIDI question. You pick up.
Yeah, I was. One of the Rhodes in the past has had MIDI on it, hasn't it? And I wondered if is it on the Mk.8, or is it possible to add it later, or?
So it's something that we are working on. It's something that's important to me for the product personally as well, and I know it's important for us as a company that to have, you know, we've got such a beautiful keyboard on there. It would make an incredible central controller for people to have in their studios, as well as being an amazing new Rhodes and stuff. So we're actually designing and looking at completely new ways of doing the MIDI triggering at the moment, because before, like, some of the optical systems were inherently hard to calibrate, and could cause a lot of headaches in that respect. So we want to try and get something that's as easy to set up and that could potentially be installed either out in the field or by a service centre, you know. So the idea is that any Rhodes that are bought at this point should be upgradable if somebody wants to add a MIDI system. Ideally, they'll be able to do it themselves, or via a local sort of dealer service centre. But certainly it'll be in the form of a strip under the keyboard, but some new technology is being used. Also, because we have the digital layer to the circuitry as well, potentially we'll be able to do things like send MIDI clock into the effects rates and panning rates and things like that to clock with your DAW. So there's a lot of that side of things to explore as well. It's all possible, put it that way. I can't give exact timelines at the minute, but we'll keep everyone informed and, you know, being transparent as possible about all of that.
That's
as
fantastic.
We move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's fascinating. I mean, it's great that you're already thinking that far ahead, because you know, a lot of companies would just build, you know, this classic, you know, reproduction and you know, this is a Rhodes. It was never meant to have MIDI. We won't give it. But you're doing that thing. You're honouring the legacy, but you're thinking forward and thinking about people who will want that kind of stuff.
I mean, that's it. Cool. If you know, it's a sizable instrument. So if you've got something the size of a Rhodes in your studio, you want to have as many possible uses for that instrument as possible, I think.
Absolutely.
You know, to be as versatile as it can be. So
you're thinking of the plan is 500 a year. That's your initial goal. When's the first one going to roll off the production line, roughly? When can we expect to see them in the wild?
So at the minute we've got 12 prototypes that we're working on and previewing all the technologies in and refining everything. We're saying Q2 2022 is when we should be shipping.
Okay.
That's our target. Obviously we'll have a constant dialogue with our customers to keep them informed of where builds are at and everything and what's happening. So I mean, it's a challenge building something of this complexity, full stop, but never mind in the midst of a pandemic with all the supply chain issues as well. And, you know, again, like I was saying, like, things feel like a moving target sometimes in terms of parts supplies and things like that. But, you know, touch wood, we're doing well. And with it, the collective experience of all the team involved, you know, it's coming together really nicely.
Yeah, it seems so. And kudos to you and the team, and congratulations on bringing this classic back from I guess it was from the dead, I suppose, in a way. It's absolutely brilliant to see a brand new Rhodes that not only looks amazing but sounds so good. There is just something about that sound. Ben, Kent, have you got anything else you want to ask Dan before we wrap up for the evening?
Two quick questions.
Sure.
This is really simple and silly, but the
Like
top
you.
of it, yeah, like myself. The top of it is nice and flat, so you could put something else on it.
Yeah.
If you personally, Dan, if you add, I presume you're gonna have a Rhodes Mk.8 at some point.
Blooming hope so.
What would be the ideal instrument to take that slot on the top? Just
Good
what
question.
would you pair it up
What
with?
would you put on the top of a Rhodes?
Well, I mean, the normal, I say normal, what I normally put on top of a Rhodes is a Hohner clavinet.
Oh, right.
But
Traditionalist.
yeah, but in terms of a synth, I mean, there's so many things I would put on there. I mean, I'm looking at my Yamaha SK30 at the minute, and you know, symphonic ensemble, and that's a great thing to pair with a Rhodes. Any sort of string machine or polysynths. I've obviously got my sequential Prophet 5 over there, and
I was going to say, you do the Mike Lind up, put the Prophet 5.
yeah. Sorry, Prophet 6 I've got there.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've got the Korg Prologue there as well, which I really like.
Yeah.
As well, I use that a lot. Also, the Roland JDXA is I think a very underrated synth, which I quite often go out live with as well with the Rhodes. So, but anything with a Rhodes really that's got a fat sound, I'll take out.
Nice.
Great. Yeah. And you yourself personally, now that you've kind of overseen this whole project, what's next for you?
Me personally,
musically, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to taking a Mk.8 out live gigging, you know, with my trio, making more music, you know. Haven't been able to make anywhere near as much music as I wanted to recently, so that's really important to me. Getting back in the studio and just fulfilling a different side of my creativity, you know, as well, alongside everything that's going on with the Rhodes as well. So yeah, just keeping making music, getting out gigging again.
Nice. What about trade shows? Are we going to see you at NAMM or Synthfest if they go ahead? Obviously, you know, with all things COVID, you know, do you have plans to go to trade shows and get this thing out in front of the public?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to take the piano to trade shows, and again, it all just depends on how things pan out with the pandemic, I guess, over the next few months, because you know, you can plan for something and then suddenly it gets pulled. So it's we'll have to see what happens. But in an ideal world, you know, it'd be great to take the piano to as many people as possible, you know, in the physical realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, Synthfest, you know, everything was kind of going ahead, you know, just up the road in Sheffield. Was it up the road or down, or was it across? I can't remember which way it is. It's close. Yeah, but that would be great to get, if they can do that again next year, because that won't be until sort of October time. That would be great. You can just stick one in the boot of your car, can't you? Just
exactly, yeah. I went to I think it was the last Synthfest, actually. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a great time there. So yeah, it would be awesome to do that. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, some dodgy geezer there doing a Fairlight seminar. Yeah, it was a really great event, and I love Synthfest, I really do. But yeah, fingers crossed we'll see it out in the public very, very soon.
Absolutely. That's the thing now. It's getting it, you know, out of the factory into people's hands now to touch it and feel it and hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll hear more of it in the coming months. Really, really look forward to it. good luck, the very best of luck with everything that you do. I hope the launch, has gone as well as you hoped it would, and that these are going to start flying out the door as soon as they're finished. So well done, and congratulations to everyone at Rhodes for producing what is an exquisite quality instrument. So well done, and thank you for your time. It's just great for you to come on and give us this. You're actually our last live guest of 2021, so you have the dubious honour of being the last one this year. But do come back next year if
I'd love to.
Please do. If you have anything new, or you just want to come on and have a natter, love to have you back, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, in likewise. Thanks for having me, and great to be here. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Right, so it's just 7 minutes past 9 p.m. now, so let's wrap these things up. Ben, you were supposed to be gigging tonight, but I bet you're glad you're not.
No, well, I was.
Well, in a way,
Yeah, well, I could have done with the money, like, but yeah, it was one of them. It was, the gig was on last minute. We didn't know anything about it. Then it got cancelled because of this new variant, and the gig that we've got tomorrow got cancelled, but we've got another gig in its place. It's all going a bit crazy at the minute. Gigs are getting cancelled left, right, and centre. So it's a bit nerve wracking.
Yeah, cool. But if you're not gigging, what will you be doing? Who'll be tinkering with that CS60?
Yeah, I'll be messing with that. I've been having great fun with that. It's really nice. Yeah, just there are things I'm supposed to be doing. I bought that samples from Mars, the complete collection. So
okay, yeah.
It's going to take me about 6 weeks download that. I'm going to have a mess about with that. More of James Dyson's sound, because I've got 2 sound banks of James. So
yes,
I'm going to try the other one out as well. Go back to Pigments. Have a mess about on that. I might even configure another Rhodes. I don't know. See what the yellow one looks like.
Yeah.
There should be a virtual augmented reality thing where you can put it in your studio. That'd really, like, those on the fence who'd be like, oh, I've got to have it now. I can see what it looks like in here.
It would have a nightmare if I did it here. It would just no, there's nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go. Oh, look at Kent. He's got his little puppy with him there. Bless. Which one's? I forget the name now. What's the name?
That's Siri.
That's it, Siri. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And Kent, so are you winding down the restoration and repair business for the Christmas period?
Down. That's wound down. Yeah, that's wound right out of it.
So you were doing some live streams just the other day, testing things out. Can we expect more of those with you noodling away?
Yeah, I got some rather encouraging feedback from it.
Yeah.
I was expecting people to sort of go, stop that. Don't do that again, And it wasn't. It was people saying, "Oh yeah, nice," blah blah blah, and all this sort of thing. I thought, oh, okay. And then I thought about. I haven't really written anything for many moons, but I'm really good at playing other people's stuff. And I thought, well, if I do a stream playing other people's stuff, it's going to get pulled. So, and I thought, well, that'd be good, actually. So it'd be like. So I'm going to do some Tomato and some Vangelis, and
nice.
You got to catch it when it comes out, because the following day it won't be there. And there'll be people knocking on the door.
Yeah,
you owe us money. So.
And we saw when we were up to see you on Sunday last. You showed us the anaglyph kind of workstation with all the bits ready to start. How are things progressing in that department?
It's just a series of Dan will be able to relate to this, but it's just a series of different problems that you have to surmount one after the other. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I'm trying to source the right material for the aftertouch sensors.
Okay.
Because one of the side developments that's occurred is I'm now at the same time designing a new keyboard controller and MIDI kit for CS80s.
Right.
That will do MIDI out and turn the 80 into a proper controller.
Nice.
And because there's a couple of ICs on the main controller, the CAS board that controls the keyboard, that are, I think if you want a replacement one, it's about £1,200 each.
Blimey.
but you can't get them, so it doesn't matter whether they're £1,200 or not. So, and that needs it would be really, really simple to make a board that replaced all that. A bit like the Kiwi kit does with the 106 and stuff. Like
Yeah.
And so then that's what sort of the path that's going down at the same time. But I'm going to be using that within the anaglyph. So there'll be lots of little products, I think, hopefully coming out that are just going to be, falling off the anaglyph development that is more usable in the rest of the world.
Cool. Excellent
We
stuff.
hope.
Indeed. Something to keep you busy over the festive period.
At least.
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll look out for your live streams. Make sure you publicise them. If anybody's not, stick them on our Facebook page as well, or a link to them or whatever. Announce them. Feel free, because I watched the ones the other day, and they are very. I mean, apart from there's a few technical issues that you had.
Take a few.
I was trying to be kind.
Yeah, I know. You could hear all the audio stuff.
Yeah,
and
but not
all the
computer
virtual
stuff.
instruments were silent.
Yeah.
And people were going, well, his hands are moving, but I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
He's pretending.
Mime in reverse.
yeah, quite. Anyway, look, good to see you as always, Kent. We'll have you back on very, very soon, I am sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Tomorrow, so we got the DX1 back here on the Sunday, and I haven't had a chance to get in there. I've actually got, because I've got the security cameras, and so all I do, like of an evening, I sit here and I just turn the security camera on and check it, just to make sure it's still there, it hasn't fallen off the stand. But yeah, it's still there. I popped in to have a look at it today, and actually showed the wife for the first time, because she didn't watch it come in. She doesn't like watching new synthesizers come in, which would be a shame, because I've got an Argon 8 turning up next week. Whoops. So hopefully tomorrow I'll have the lid off of that, and we'll start seeing if we can't find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a relatively easy fix, but you never know. But it does look amazing, absolutely amazing. I'll just I'd sit there and have just look at it and play it, or I'd MIDI it through to the DX5 and let the DX5 do all the sounds, because it doesn't sound any different really. So that's my weekend sorted, and then of course we've got Christmas coming up a week, well, tomorrow. So you might be thinking, do we have a Christmas Eve show? Well, we do, but we're putting our feet up. So we've actually made the Christmas Eve show. It's in the can. I know I've kind of given the game away, but there's no point. You can't fake that kind of thing anymore. So we have pre-recorded a fantastic Christmas show. I should have actually got the logos and everything up here. Let me see if I can talk through that. But basically what we've decided to do is do what most kind of shows and music technology things do at this time of year. Is we've tried to come up with our top fives, and we came up with 3 top 5 lists: top 5 hardware synths, top 5 software synths, and top 5 effects. And we decided 5 each. So we picked our top 5 for each 3 individually, and then we discussed them, and we came up with an overall top 5 for 2021. I think maybe we took a little bit of liberty with the timings. Maybe something was announced at the end of 2020 but didn't hit the shops until 2021. So the Christmas show will be on at the normal time. You see what I did?
Fantastic.
I was really bringing that in. Graphics designed by the wonderful graphics designed by Ben, who does an absolutely bag up job.
It's not my best work, that one, I've got to be honest.
All you got to do for Christmas is just throw Christmas hats and snow on shit, and you're good to go. But that will be on the same time as our regular live show, and it goes on for about the same length of time as our regular live show. So you're not going to be shortchanged, but you won't be able to kind of interact with us in a live fashion as you normally do. But do you know what? Even though we're supposed to be putting our feet up and spending time with our families, I think I'm going to be on the sofa with my laptop, and I shall just be I'll be watching and talking as well. So feel free to disagree with us or agree with our choices. We don't care. We're not there. So hopefully we've probably got some of your favourites in there. But if you want to know what they are, tune in, same time, same place next week for that. And then the week after that, we are doing a New Year's Eve show. But again, of course, New Year's Eve means that we will be otherwise engaged. So we're when we're doing that, we're doing that next week, aren't we, Ben? We're
Sorry, what? I'm in the chat. I'm not listening. I'm in the
no,
chat.
quite.
I'm not. Sorry.
We're going to be pre-recording our New Year's Eve show next week.
Yes. I
And
won't
I think-
be distracted by the chat then. I'll be able to talk. Can't
Indeed.
multitask.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Cannot
Do you know what? It
multitask.
was weird, wasn't it, when we were recording that Christmas show that we didn't have the distraction of all of our friends in chat. It was odd. It felt like we were cheating on our partners or something. It was just very odd.
It was quite a good show though. We had some good arguments and
We did,
laughs
yeah.
and that about stuff. So
Absolutely.
it is quite good.
Yeah, and so for New Year's Eve, what we've decided to do is just take a retrospective look throughout the year of Pro Synth Network live shows, because we've had fantastic guests, of course, finishing it off with Dan Goldman, but we've had the likes of Lisa Belladonna, we've had Dina Perman, Michelle Mokusa, Steve Picaro, which was just like massively fantastic. We've had Axel Hartman. Who else have we had? We had Ty Unwin, Dave Spears. All of that lot. We've had Mick McNeil twice, or no, once.
Mike Metley.
Mike Metley, the author of Synth Gems, another great Christmas present you can buy for your friends and family. We've had some great guests. So we're going to be looking back on some of those. If you have a favourite moment or a favourite guest, there is a post on our Facebook page that I put up, and I set it up as a poll. It's not a competition, but I do know that the vast majority of people have chosen the moment when JJ Exarlic of Art of Noise absolutely hammered the DX7, and my face just went and they voted for that as like their favourite moment of 2021. Thanks, guys. Yeah, cheers. But it's not about the favourites, he said. But we want to know what were your special moments, and then we can try and go and find that clip, and then we'll include it in the show, and then we can copyright strike ourselves. I don't know how that works. That would be in some kind of eternal loop, wouldn't it? So thank you to everyone. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thank you to all those people who've donated so generously throughout the show, and of course throughout the whole year, either in the super chat or into the PayPal account. Fantastic. Thank you to all of you who are wishing us a happy Christmas, and so many of you I can't say. We wish you back to you straight, from our hearts and our families to yours. I hope you have a good and safe one. Stay safe. Please do whatever you can to prevent the spread of this awful thing happening all over again, whether it means just staying indoors or getting a vaccine or whatever. Just take care of yourselves and stay safe. And we will virtually kind of see you next week with the Christmas show, and the week after with the New Year's show, and then we'll be back with the live show first week in January, I believe, which will be, let me think, about 7th of January, I think, around then. Don't know if we've got any guests lined up for that one just yet, but we're working on a whole bunch of new people. So, join us then. Thank you ever so much. Again, Dan, been an absolute pleasure. Shan't keep you any longer. To all of you, fantastic. See you all soon. Take care, Ben. Take care, Kent. And, have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you guys.